Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to another episode of Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. On this episode, I want to talk about, first of all, I want to say I send out my sincerest condolences to the Trayvon Martin family and the Oscar Grant family and every other family that has been subjected to the brutal racism that still exists today. And in lieu of that, what I want to talk about today is racism. Now, what I want to talk about is where and how racism came to be in order to give us a background or a backdrop of what is truly going on in our society today. Between 1660 and 1670, there are different accounts, but between this time, there was a young man, a man by the name of Nathaniel Bacon, who lived in Jamestown. Now, Nathaniel Bacon was a young planter, and he wanted more land for the people that were inside of his clique. Basically, he wanted more land. So what he did is he went to the governor of Jamestown and asked the governor to supply him with a militia so that he could go to the areas that were surrounding his farm to annex more property. Now, William Beckley, who was the governor of Jamestown at the time, he denied the request. Now, at this time in Jamestown, you had blacks and whites that were basically on the same level. Basically, there was no racism. You had blacks and whites that were both indentured servants. They held the same status in the society at that time. They held the same status. They worked together. They chilled together. They they did things together. So at this time, everything was just about equal. Now, what Nathaniel Bacon did when his request was denied is he went to these people. He went to the indentured servant people and some of the people who were in a status a little bit lower than indentured servitude. He went to these people and he was able to convince them to come together, blacks and whites, and to march on Jamestown. Now, this campaign wasn't successful. He was not successful. He did not successfully take over Jamestown. But what he did is that the planter elite in Jamestown at the time, who did not give a flip about the poor white people, nor did they give a flip about the poor black people. What this biracial alliance did was it put fear in their heart, because they knew and understood that they could not overcome another such alliance if the general people were to come together and to try again with another campaign of a biracial alliance coming for Jamestown. They could not survive another campaign like that. So at that point, what they decided to do was to look back in the annals of history. And what they did is they pulled out the most successful tool of the elite that has ever been devised, that has ever been made. And that is divide and conquer. At this point, after the Nathaniel Bacon rebellion was put down, what they decided to do, they created legislation called the Black Codes. Now, what the Black Codes were laws that basically put the black people that were present at the time, it put them, and all the black people that were to come after that time, it put them in a permanent cast of institutionalized slavery. This is what it did to the black people. And what it did to the white people, the poor white people, was it put them just above them, where they were the overseers of the black population. The poor population, the poor white population, were the overseers of the black slave population. So now what that did is that caused a perpetual animosity between the poor whites, who were the overseers, and the slaves. Now, that perpetual animosity between those two, and the perpetual hatred between the two, and the chaos that ensued after it, was good for the elite. Because what that did was that kept their eye, the poor white people and the slaves, that kept their eye off the prize. Off the prize of being able to be treated as equals. Now, as I said before, the planner elite didn't give a flip about the poor white people or the poor black people, but they just needed to devise a system that would allow them to not have to worry about another alliance, biracial alliance, being formed again. And this was an elegant, ingenious plan because it did exactly what they wanted. From that point forward, they really never had to worry about that alliance coming together, because the middle class and poor white people and the middle class and poor black people could never see past the seamless apparatus that they were confined in. They couldn't see past that. So while these people, while the poor and middle class black and white people were fighting over, even as time progressed, as they were fighting over Democratic candidate or Republican candidate, the elite didn't care, because they understood that both of the candidates, both parties, were in their pocket. Because out of the chaos between the general population, they gained control of the entire system. So now, I say this because I really want each of us, I implore for each of us to take an honest look at the system and truly take a look at who is benefiting from the current system that we're locked into. A system that breeds perpetual hatred. A system that breeds racism. And the elite, they actually encourage the racism between the lower rungs of the society. Because again, if they can keep the poor, the middle class and the poor black and whites in constant struggle against one another, then out of that chaos, they gain control. So again, we have to all you have to do is take a step back and look and see what's happening in the arena. Look and see what's happening in the arena, and take a look who has control over the entire thing. And then we will know. It's not hard. We just got to get past all of the hatred for a moment. We have to get past the hatred and the animosity, and then try to come back to that 1600s time where there was an alliance, that could help both parties, where both parties can benefit off of the actions that the party took, that the alliance took. So, again, I want to send out my sincerest condolences to the Trayvon Martin family, the Oscar Grant family, and all of the other victims of the brutal system of racism out there. So, as always, the greatest gift that the Creator has given mankind is the mind. So let's use ours and create the circumstances that we want in our life. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to another episode of Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. And if there's any comments, questions, or suggestions, please leave them in the box below. And until the next episode of Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, this is T. Bennett asking everybody to step back and take that look. And peace.